Our first category is conceptual unbuilt architecture.
On the Novavax project, I really fought for this one because I felt like it had a really great composition and how it interacted with the site, how the individual buildings were stacked together and connected. I liked the layout on the floor plans and, just thinking about lab space versus providing more light for lounge areas and gathering spaces. The screens were really well done on the exterior to kind of create some shading devices, but also speak towards the use that's in the building. So I just thought it was really unique and an interesting design.
Flinders Street Station in Melbourne is an exemplary urban design project. The way it situates itself along the water edge, and it also integrates transportation and all kinds of other amenities that is really a gift to the city.
I think on the Flinders Street station project, one of the elements that we thought was so impactful, beyond just the diagrams explaining all of the elements, is the interaction with the water and the existing site context, I think is really important. And coming from a preservation background, that's critical to my thinking in order to create that sense of place.
For this project, the imagery was amazing. It really told the story. There's a lot of diagrams that kind of helped us understand the perspective of the designer and what they're trying to achieve. I thought that was pretty powerful.
The tower, it floats above the harbor. It's this beacon of light that is pretty amazing. And the way it's set in and around the fabric of the city is impressive. We were really impressed with the interaction at the water and the steps that not only attach to the historic building, but also step down from the base. That spindly little tower base, it expands out into this gorgeous stair and platform. Love it.
Our next category is historic architecture.
What I really liked about this one is I felt like true preservation happened on the project. Very lightly touched the exterior, and coming from my background in preservation and adaptive reuse, it was really well thought through on how to lightly touch that exterior, but then integrate all of these sustainable elements and kind of take the project into the future without impacting the original context. And we always focus on trying to get to that point where you walk away and no one really knows what you touched on the project. I think that's true preservation in the purest sense, and I felt like this project accomplished that.
The slow apartments in the historic architecture category was impressive to our jury because of the attention to detail in the exterior preservation of the project and the respect of the modern style of the building. But what was really impressive is when we looked at the interior photos, the interior design is elevated. It is not what we expected to see. Going into the project, looking at those photos, we expected to see a low-income treatment, and this is really polished and uses modern materials in a unique way.
On the asylum into home, we really liked the dedication of the architect on this project, of kind of seeing the true restoration of the existing structure through, and then adding elements that are clearly modern and contemporary and touch the building lightly for the new entrances. Something that, per the Secretary of Interior standards, can be removed in the future without impact to the historic context. The siting and interaction of the buildings was interesting to us. But really, it's about the diligence to, like, on the restoration of the historic windows and how that's detailed in the presentation. I thought was really well done.
The Virginia Theological Seminary, the jury really liked this project. The exterior of the building was a little unassuming, but once you enter into the building, you could imagine opening up those doors and seeing, this light, this new lighting effect that was applied. Really, the details of the architecture were stripped back, but celebrated in a way. And this being a church and having it being adapted to something else, it really felt appropriate as a gallery and as an assembly space. So we just thought that it was very well done.
The Fish Market project is in a vibrant area, and it looks like a place that I want to go and have a cocktail. I think it's very well done, and it looks like a centerpiece of the community that should be celebrated, and we thought it was excellent.
So one of the things I really loved about this project, it was a really good rehabilitation of the market, and then taking that fish house to an elevated level. I think, an open shed that's now enclosed, but still maintains that level of light and interaction with the setting around it, I thought was really respectful, but also celebrates that moment, which I thought was really nice. Details are well thought out, made great use of a small space, and creating a unique storied area where people will want to come. I think it's fantastic.
The Fish Market project was a very interesting one. It's in an area that seemingly has had a lot of rehabilitation and new things inserted, and that these two buildings still existed. And from the photographs that the jury reviewed, were really had to dig pretty deep to discover what was original and what wasn't, and how do we bring these back. And the other thing I would say is that commercial properties are sometimes the first ones to go from an historic point of view, and this to me is sort of a gift back to Washington, D.C. in keeping some element of what was there and celebrating and bringing it back for people to see. The detailing and so on, the architects had to do a fair amount of research, and it was about stripping away so many layers. And in fact, when you read the proposal, you had to sort of dig through all this really deep history, and I think they did a nice job.
Buildings like this don't always stay. They get torn down all the time. The revitalization of this area is important in order to maintain those historic structures, and the architects, designers were able to strip this down, provide an amenity to the community, and really create a very valuable space. It's a tremendous improvement, to say the least, and we're really excited to see this project.
Our next category is residential architecture.
So on the Lewis residence, I think what we found so appealing was the way it was sited and the fact that it just kind of blended into nature and the woods, taking simple materials and using them really in clean ways, we felt was really important, respectful of the context that's there, with some unique design elements. So just felt that it was a good, clean design that spoke true to what it was meant to be.
The East Lake Beach House, looking through the submission, this project really had nice proportions. There's some separations between elements of the house with glass. The siding the details on the siding and the roof was very beautiful detail. We were all very captivated by that. And then on the beach side, the fact that the house actually looked like it was elevated was nice for the context. A little bit more secure and strong fronted, but elevated on the beach side. So it's very, very beautiful, handsome house. It would be a great place to live.
We were impressed with Clearview and Foggy Bottom. And some of the things that impressed us was that we are looking at an 1880s row house, historic area, very narrow home, and the design that reimagined this space was really inventive. It had some fine details on the stair railings, the glass floor, the floating steps, as well as the back of the house opens up to the exterior, and you get the nature coming in, interior spaces flowing out, but yet on the front facade, it's very well maintained and respectful of the historic facade, but that new front door gives it a little bright spot of hope.
The Mount Vernon View residence we felt was worthy of a citation, mainly because of its siting and use of materials that were very sympathetic to the context of this area. The shingle style, the simple, respectful details, and yet the contemporary interiors that had these great views to the exterior, and just was really well thought through and has that element of preservation while still projecting into more modern context, which we really liked.
A beautiful jewel that sits in a forested site that's amazing. I think the way the form is situated and takes advantage of this beautiful wooded site is an amazing way of siting this house. I think it's a getaway that was something that the owner had wanted, and I would say he probably totally appreciates this beautiful little house in the woods. The Watergate renovation is impeccably and beautifully detailed. The floor plate is not an easy one to resolve, given the low ceilings, and the lighting that was introduced is minimal, but with a very light touch, I would say. But the details are what really is a standout in this project. The proportions of the millwork and so on are spot on.
The Balance House, the jury really enjoyed. It's got a lot of wonderful spaces, light-filled spaces, very livable. The interior palette was simple but elegant. Lots of white walls, but accented with wood floors and metal elements that were done in a pretty fun way. And the picture of the back patio, I think, is what solidified it for us all. The projection, this like expressed element that came out that cantilevered over the space, it was just pretty powerful and made it something special at what could be just a run-of-the-mill townhome.
For the American British Country House, the jury really liked this one because of the traditional details and then more contemporary interiors. The siding is really well done. 2 of the jury members have decided we'd like to move into the house. It's just really beautifully planned out. Slight shifting on the floor plan and how those elements are connected. The atrium area, greenhouse space, separating the brick structure from the more vernacular structures, I thought was really well done. The transition of materials and that attention to detail was clearly thought through, and just those unique connections and transitions we felt was what elevated this to a point of receiving a merit award. The Duval Court project or submission was it was one of my favorite submissions in all of the applications we reviewed. Really love the nod to the historic 1930s and that streamlined modern style of architecture. We love that it took the ordinary and really elevated it for well beyond what anyone would anticipate for housing and low-income housing at that. So I really loved the simplicity of the design, but the way it was detailed and the clean use of materials was really well thought through.
Duval Court was exciting to see. This type of product is certainly unique. It's exciting to see infill housing done in this way. The spaces are small, but they don't feel that way. They're light filled. The layouts are pretty good. There's fun pops of color, and having that outdoor space, the private outdoor space on the roof, I think is super valuable and makes this project really special.
I was impressed by the Duval Court's kit of parts and response to the alley site. The narrow units are similar to what you would see in a historic row house, and they take full advantage of all the levels of the first floor entry, public spaces, if you will, and then the second floor with the bedroom spaces, using products that are on the market like the Murphy bed helps to transform what could be an office into a bedroom, and then the green space on the roof, the small patio on the back at the first floor and the second. It's just a really nice small home.
This project is right on the mark for where cities are today in reclaiming an alley that was forgotten and space that no one really paid attention to, and that it's been brought back in an affordable way is just the right move in this environment that we're in. It's an urban design insertion that I think more cities need to look at and appreciate, that we don't always have to sprawl, that we can find space within the city and bringing a more vibrant, active urban environment with affordable housing. Empty Nester House. What a fun house, as well as really fine architecture. The partie is so clear on this project, and in that partie it addresses its site in an amazing way. I think the whole project and presentation for the jury was well put together. We understood the story, we understood sort of what was intended, and we could see that it was accomplished in this really beautiful project.
The Empty Nester House. I love that this is a new house that is in the style of a mid-century structure. The floating floors that are just separated by the glass wall and the large curtains, I can imagine parties going on here. It is really well detailed and the spaces both inside and out flow together nicely. It is designed in a very thoughtful way. And the presentation just spot on.
The empty nester house, the floor plan was very well done. You can just imagine that it was thought through. I can, my mind goes through this choreography of an event happening there, and there's all these really nice spaces that people can interact. There's great sight lines into the woods or the wooded area. There's other subtle details, like the casework actually drops down and you get peaks of kind of glazing to either side, which is kind of nice. So it just felt like a really thought through experience. It's a great project.
On the empty nester house, this was a really easy decision for the jury to make. It was kind of that instantly unanimous decision where we all said, yes, this one gets elevated to an excellence award. It's completely different than the other award we had given for this category. Kind of love the change in scale and, the contemporary versus a more stylized project, more traditional. I love the fact that this is so open to nature, and like Jeff said, these elements of millwork and cabinetry just float within the space to create that separation, and it's just really beautifully detailed and connects with the site in a way that we haven't seen on other projects in this way. It just kind of spreads out and floats out into that space. So it clearly played with that contextual siting element, and that comes through.
And now our next category, institutional architecture.
For this project, there's really not much you can do to a precast box, but I think that one of the things that resonated with me on this project is that it was built for my child's future. For it being zero carbon, zero footprint, that really spoke heavily for me in meeting the principles that architecture and the AIA is pushing us toward. And for that alone, I think it deserves recognition. This project hit on the 9 principles of design, 9 of the 10 principles, which is really good for a school. One of the other telling qualities of the architecture and the design was the expansive glass and the play with connection to nature was a really good approach to the design, one that we very much appreciated and felt like that it needed to be drawn attention to. So for those reasons alone, and for many more, good job on this project and good job on the design.
So we had quite a bit of debate on this particular entry here, and we decided to award it a merit award. And the compelling thing about the project, it really did a great job connecting these two very different contextual buildings that are adjacent to it. I think the designers did a fantastic job in making it very expressive, creating its own identity, and the modern juxtaposition with more of the traditional architecture I thought was handled very well. Really appreciated the intricacy of the brick detailing, and just very, very compelling overall.
So these kinds of public buildings always require a clear image for what they stand for, and I think that this project and the design of the building really provide the library for that clear identity. I think the use of materials was very appropriate, very warm. There were a few challenges in which sometimes the timber engages with the curtain system and the steel structure, but overall a very solid project. So projects like this consulate have a variety of challenges, and one of the biggest ones is to represent the identity of the United States overseas. I think that this project does a great job at both providing an image of openness and friendliness, while at the same time addressing the very local concerns about weather and climate, as well as protection for the people within the building. So a really great project overall.
Actually, this project is, I am originally from Mexico, so actually I think so I view it a little bit different, but I really, sincerely, was very impressed. I was very happy to see a project like this. The overhang, knowing the weather and the public spaces, I mean, they really responded to the culture and the environment, and sincerely, kudos to the architects. Thanks.
So this project, we thought it did a fantastic job responding to its environment. It was, sometimes it's really easy to make these type of buildings a little bit more formidable and less approachable, but I thought that the designers on this project did a wonderful job making the facility approachable, creating some really interesting and unique spaces on the interior. I really love the stair detailing that was done, and so it's a great project overall.
Sometimes buildings like this would seem not as inviting, but this one had a very warm design, very embraceful design, and although there was not a lot of glass, to me, I just felt a little bit more transparent than I would have thought a consulate would be. The interior was a good juxtaposition between the interior and exterior, with color, with texture, with contextual just fitting. And for that reason alone, good job.
And now our next category, commercial interiors.
This project really resonated with me because as a patient, when you walk into a space, you want to feel calm, you want the space to be inviting. And I think the interior design on here did just that. Typically, whites and grays would make me feel like this is more of a sterile environment, but here I think they really did well with the hues, with the lighting, with just the entire feel of it. And for that, I think it deserves recognition.
So what really drew me to this project and that I found really compelling, it really set out to do what the designers intended it to do. It unabashedly throws its support for this community, and I just really like the simplicity of some of the moves that were made in the facility, the play of color, very simple moves but very elegant, and really enjoyed how the space responds and supports the LGBTQ community.
Actually, this project was really, for me, really attracted me was just the balance between the existing fabric and bringing it into the new. I mean, and that's the word balance, between how much you are going to interfere within the original architecture and to be able to bring it into the actuality of what is needed today, both aesthetically and functionally. So keeping the elements and the elegance and the aesthetics, that the bonds that they were there, I thought that that fine balance between the old and the new, I think so that's what it really made this project very successful.
So I always thought that great projects have a number of things in common. They have a clarity of idea, a simple resolution, and an aspect of sustainability. And I think that in this project it's evident that they did all those three things. A clear idea for what the concept was, simple way to resolve the problem, and the fact that it's a renovation really talks about the sustainable aspect of the project. So I thought that this project had a great mix of art and architectural design, and it was hard for me to tell whether the art influenced the architecture or vice versa, and perhaps that's really kind of how you want that to go.
Well, I also, I mean, how do you say, the influence between the art, it was great. And actually, with the specific facets of all the triangulations that are used to the space, sometimes I thought, oh my God, it's becoming overwhelming. But actually, it just arrived to the moment that just the right amount. It is an exciting place. And it is obviously, you know, where the influences come, and it's a language that it just goes through every aspects of the project.
What I really enjoyed about this project is how it really kind of embraces the artistry and really integrates that with the architecture. It created some very unique spaces, some very enjoyable spaces with a lot of color and life to them. So a really enjoyable project. I think it was executed well, and it's a great project.
The project really drew me in from the very beginning. It was a great mixture of materials and textures and colors. And then the architecture kind of fell to the background. The sculpture and the artistic approach really spoke loudly on this one. So for that, we felt that it deserved really good recognition, and good job, team.
Our next category, commercial architecture.
Well, I think this is a wonderful project. I mean, I know the difficulties that it is having to deal with the historic building. And also when you look at the exterior of this building, it is actually quite massive. One of the things that I was impressed, it was the transformation that it was done in the inside, but also how light and airy and bright it is on the inside. I just thought that how it was handled was very refined and thoughtful, and I thought it really deserved this award very much.
This project, we had a little bit of debate from the jury team, and in the end, we came up with giving this one a citation for resources, responsible design. They hit 7 of the 10 targets for the AIA's design principles and made it stand out. It fits right well within the community. One of the things that was a little challenging for us was the exterior, but overall, we believe that they nailed the design. It's very cohesive, very inviting, and fits the community and serves the community that it's in. So, good job, team.
Well, this project actually also too, we went back and forth, but I think so. Like, I particularly think that this is very successful of adding three-dimensionality to a corner that it would have been very blah. I appreciate the large openings, the changes in material and tonality, and also the opening in the corner and in a city street. I thought that successfully brought a modern language, but at the same time, it has the back and forth in the facade that it actually made it to fit within the existing fabric of the city that it was there. So I really am glad that it's being recognized.
While this project may not be particularly expressive project, I feel that it derives its power from a really thoughtful use of materials and detailing and really elevating what would otherwise have been a very blah building into something that actually fits in its neighborhood. It really tries to do something powerful out of something that could have just been just another corner building. So I think that there's great power in architecture in elevating these kinds of projects. So great job to everybody involved.
I would like to echo what Alex just said. I mean, I just felt that the attention to detail on the brick, the selection of materials, being a new construction on the setting, it really speaks and brought it up to this level of excellence. Actually, my very first comment when we were starting is like, I never thought that I would be voting for a award a Hyatt project, but sincerely, I commend the architects on the thoughtfulness and the detailing and how to integrate the building into the existing context. Great job.
Okay, what I really enjoyed about this project is when I looked at it, I really didn't look at it as it being a Hyatt. I don't think I paid attention to the name until we actually arrived here today to discuss it collectively. The materiality of the exterior skin worked well. The changes in scale, the changes in plane, the changes in color, the changes in texture, it all worked, and it looks like it sits really well with the environment and its contextual surrounding. So the neighborhood that it sits in, I feel like it looks like it's been there the entire time, that it's not a brand new building, that it was born to be there. Good job bringing this corner to life.
What I found really compelling about this project, it could have been designed a lot differently, a lot less responsive, and very corporate. But I thought the designers did a really nice job, particularly with the exterior and how they dealt with scale, contextual scale, and pedestrian scale as well. I thought that was handled very successfully. The materials and the composition of the exterior, and I thought it was a great project, successful in really kind of holding its own on that corner. So.
One of the things that drew me into this project was the pedestrian scale. The building is, of course, several stories tall, lots of expansive glazing, but I felt like the pedestrian fit, especially with all the walkways, all the pathways, the connectivity from one building to the next, it didn't make the pedestrian feel out of place. The building design was pretty good. It was intricate. It looks very modern, but yet could stand the test of time. So good job, team, with that. And we'll go on to the next juror.
I think this project was deserving of a Design Excellence Award. From my perspective, a few very simple key reasons. I thought the exterior detailing was handled very cleanly and elegantly, but more importantly, how the designers really kind of broke the scale down of the facility to create these sort of interconnected pedestrian ways in between the buildings, and so really enjoyed that. I thought it was very successful in creating kind of an interconnected campus feel, and great project.
I would like to second what it had just been said by my fellow jurors. How they say, the large vast of square footage, it could be handled very differently, and like how it was broken down into all of these elements, and also it's not just a repeat of the same architectural in all of these elements. I really appreciate the variety of the architectural styles, while at the same time they all relate to each other and fit. The detailing is excellent, and the connectivity, also the pedestrian level, it is just something that needs to be commended. Great job.
I think that this is a very complete project. For a project of this scale, sometimes there's things that fall through the cracks, but in this one, everything from the master planning of the organization of the buildings to the selection of the mullions and the glazing, everything seemed to be very well thought out and connected. The variety of indoor and outdoor spaces and the way in which the buildings provide diversity by maintaining a campus cohesion is always a challenge to do. And I think this team did a great job, so congratulations on a wonderful project.